Yeah, I call her Miss Forensic. She's done her homework and a job on Daniel Andrews. She's entitled to enormous credit. And I just must say this on behalf of many people who've written to me. They are deeply indebted to Peter Credland, Victorians, asking if I'll pass on my thanks. I'm more than delighted to do it. And I say again what I've said many times. This woman is an ornament to Australian scholarship and effort and investigative journalism. But remember one thing. Remember one thing. The woman you're seeing on screen tonight is the same woman that was vilified day in, day out, week in, week out, when she worked for one of the most outstanding men ever to hold political office in this country, Tony Abbott. So at long last, they're starting to realise why Abbott was able to win 25 seats from the Labor Party in 2 elections. He had one very, very smart lady beside him, and they did it between them. Terrific achievement. So, look, congratulations on what you've done in all of this, Peter. It's been really hard work. But can I ask first question, the mystery of who contracted the security guards is still unsolved, is it?
Just let me say from the outset, I couldn't have had a better supporter in you, Alan Jones, in all of that time that I was under attack. But I have to say, I never had a better mentor in Tony Abbott. And
Lovely.
everything I've learned in terms of the forensic nature of the last few weeks, he was an exemplar and all of that. We do know who signed the contract. The contracted, all the details of the contractors, and there's a whole series of subcontracts that sit under them, are buried in exhibits that are available publicly on the inquiry's website. And we've gone through those, or I've gone through them, and I'm sure plenty of other people have too. But, you know, this idea that someone can get a $30 million contract in about 18 or 19 hours, I find extraordinary. And one of the parties to the contract, this is a Unified Security, this is the mob that had the lion's share of the work, $30 million for 3 months' work, Alan. They weren't even on the preferred tenders list. So that's where I raised some of the concerns about probity with the Premier the other day. I know this is all obviously a matter that I hope the inquiry goes into deeply, but most nights I'm sitting there flicking through the pages and I am not going away. I am living this lockdown, right? So this is not just someone with a passing interest. This is week 14 for Victorians. And I find the stories of businesses going to the wall that ring me and tell me how bad it is, I find it heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking.
So there's no doubt over 700 people dead. Will the records reveal who told Graham Ashton, the former police commissioner, that private security would be used to guard the hotels?
Well, we know. You've been working in government, right? So how's this? The text message goes to Chris Eccles at 1:16, and at 1:17 we now know Mr Eccles rings back Graham Ashton within a minute, right? Within a minute. Now, if you've got to call back someone in a senior position like a police chief and tell them bad news, yeah, you mightn't call them back so quickly. But when you ring back within a minute, you're telling them what they want to hear. And the answer was, we know, because subsequent text messages from Graham Ashton was, thank goodness, DPC, this is the Department of Premier and Cabinet, we've got a special deal. He's telling his federal counterpart, you all might have to do the hotel quarantine. I know that we're talking about police and the military and every other state, but in Victoria, we're sorted. We've got private security. Now, I don't think a career public servant like Chris Eccles, he's gone because he said one thing to the inquiry and his records say something else, the phone records. But I honestly don't think a career public servant, 35 years in the job, rings a police chief and makes a punt that there's a decision made and he made it. I don't think that's right. I think he was the communicator, the carrier pigeon, the communicator of a decision made by senior government people.
Well, should the inquiry resume to investigate issues raised by the former health minister, Jenny Mikakos, in her written submission? She's blamed the subversion of cabinet processes for the failings, and she said the inquiry should treat some of Andrew's evidence with caution.
Absolutely, and she's gone and she's contesting the evidence of another witness, which in this case is the Premier. You've got Chris Eccles now, whose evidence clearly has been expanded upon, if I'm kind, by the nature of the phone records. You've got Mr Crisp, who's the head of Emergency Management Victoria, saying one thing to a parliamentary inquiry, another thing to the Coate inquiry. He's now recanting the parliamentary inquiry. He's had 6 goes at evidence between statements and testimony at these 2 inquiries, 6 cracks at it. Why isn't he being brought back? We've never heard from the Chief of Staff. Now, this idea that the first thing Eccles does when he walks out of the room, on his way to telling Femister, this is another secretary, to get some things done in relation to hotel quarantine, he walks past the Chief of Staff, who just happens to be sitting outside the room, and briefs her about this, you know, really seismic decision that the National Cabinet has just taken in relation to hotel quarantine. And he tells the Chief of Staff, and what, she just sits down there and picks up a phone and starts scrolling through Instagram? I mean, come on. Absolutely. I've been a Chief of Staff. Absolutely. You know, battle station stuff, right? Yes. She would have been straight back to the office, pulled together the staff, and bang, 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 gone through the politics. So she needs to be called before the inquiry, and all of her testimony needs to be available publicly.
Absolutely.
I have barristers in Victoria tell me, Alan, they say that this doesn't smell right. They're unhappy with the way in which counsel assisting perhaps hasn't pursued things hard enough. You look at the way ICAC pursues questions, and I accept everything you said about ICAC at the top of the show, and you are right. But the pursuit of the evidence in ICAC was very different than what we saw in Victoria.
Absolutely. Good on you, Peter. You're an ornament to the industry. We thank you for that. No wonder, though, people couldn't get away and pull the wool over your eyes, I can tell you. You got up too early for them. Done.
We country people get up early, mate, don't we? We country people get up early.
Well done, Peter. Lovely to talk to you. Congratulations. There she is, Peta Credlin.